YouTubers. James here once again, and this time I bring you a video response, and today this will be the answer to Jay's 10 questions. So I shall endeavour to rattle through and try not to ramble too much, and accompanying me will be the Mindful Birchwood, and in it some, in fact, a mixture of Harrison Simmons blended Countryman and some Broberg's Burley. So very tasty and a nice accompaniment. So without further ado, number 1. What do the following items cost? So first off we have 4 litres of milk. So where I am in the UK, 4 litres of milk is £1.76. This is semi-skimmed, which doesn't make much odds, and as a comparison that's $2.20. So then we'll do, let's do the eggs. So a dozen eggs, on average 12 medium eggs, £1.65, which is about $2.06, and if I get them from home, totally free, bar a bit of chicken feed and some bedding probably. Staying with the groceries, what should we do next? Yes, 1 large pizza. Not one for eating a lot of pizza, but we do enjoy one occasionally. So we're looking at, for 1 large cheese and tomato pizza, which is actually a 15-inch pizza, it's £10.90, and that works out at about $13.61. So we'll go on to non-edible items. So on to petrol, and in the UK at the moment you can generally find 4 litres of petrol for about £4.68, which is about $5.84, and diesel is about £4.80, so a little bit dearer for 4 litres, and that's about $5.99. So 50 grams of tobacco. Now generally speaking, the prices do vary according to the kind, the make and all that sort of thing, but as an average across the board, you're looking at, if I can find it on my list here, so £13 to £14, which is roughly speaking sort of $16.86. As I say, this does vary, but that seems to be the sort of the general shocking cost of 50 grams of tobacco. As I say, there are some cheaper blends, but yes, rather alarmingly, that's what we're having to pay. And I think finally, as part of this question, 1 large cigar. Now I do enjoy a cigar occasionally, and I haven't tried that many, but I do enjoy a Romeo and Julieta Wide Churchill, and I know this is probably quite a fairly expensive cigar, and generally speaking from most suppliers I can find, it is about £21.50. So that is about $26.84. So, number 2. Do you believe in luck? So, I have my answers jotted down here. In short, I don't. No, I don't really believe in luck. I think that essentially whatever you do in life, you put in your efforts and you put into action things that you do, and obviously these inputs cause outcomes. Some are beneficial and some are not, and I think that's just the way it goes, and whatever happens, it is some way a response to whatever I've done or what somebody else has done. And so I don't really think, although you could loosely term it as luck, I think it is just, in my view, these are just outcomes as a response to something that's happened elsewhere or to you, or at some stage. So as you can tell, I'm not particularly superstitious, so that's my thoughts on luck briefly. So number 3. What do I normally eat for lunch? Or what do you normally eat for lunch, as it was posed by Jay. Now, obviously I work full time, and I work as a gardener, and lunchtime is about half an hour, so generally it will be sandwiches, and it could be all sorts of things. It could be cheese and ham, it could be various other things with cheese, but I do like a sandwich with decent bread, and it will be accompanied by possibly some crisps or chips, depending on which part of the world you're from, and there may be some yoghurt, and there'll probably be some fruit, probably a banana or an apple or both, and more than likely a chocolate bar of some sort, and most definitely a lot of tea, which is entirely essential. Obviously, it's what makes things go. So, number 4. Would you live in complete darkness for 2 weeks for money? I thought about this as I did a lot of these questions here, and really no is a short answer. I think life is too short, and not particularly a fan of darkness, and I think I value daylight, such as it is this time of the year in the UK, a great deal more than money. So that's that. Number 5. If you could become an expert at one skill instantly, what would that be? Now, this is a tricky one. Not the trickiest, I think, but a very tricky one for me, because as I'm sure everybody will have, there's all sorts of things that you could conjure up. But for me, I think it would have to be playing the piano. It's just something I would love to be able to do. I have tried, and I will continue to try to do so at some point, but as of yet I haven't been able to master it. And if I could just snap my fingers and be suddenly completely fluent and play anything I wanted to, that would be absolutely wonderful. So, number 6, I think we're on now. Do you believe in reincarnation? Another interesting question, and In the sense of the term, I don't think so. No. I'm a strong believer in that throughout time and history and the present day there are bound to be similarities between people and their lives, how you look and how other people look. We're all different, obviously, but it's well known that occasionally you have people that look very similar or have very similar experiences, and I think that is just basically what it comes down to. I don't believe that reincarnation occurs whereby, as I understand it, people return from somewhere and continue and relive. I don't think this is happening. I think my sceptical head thinks generally that there can be a huge amount of coincidence, and I agree there can be very, very surprising similarities and coincidences, but I think that's all there is to it, and I've yet to see anything that really convinces me, I have to say. So I shall light up once more, and we're on to number 7, and this one is a cause for much thought. Again, and it was: would you rather row across the ocean or walk across a desert? Now, in small doses, either one of those things to me is mildly appealing, surprisingly, but I've settled upon walking across the desert because I think when you balance it up, and I have thought about this quite a bit, the variables are probably very similar in number, but I would imagine that one huge variable that you don't have if you were to walk across the desert is the fact that obviously if you're rowing across the ocean, you have a vessel or a boat or whatever it might be that you're rowing, and should there be any problems with that, or should you capsize or lose your boat, then really it's down to you in the water, and that obviously conjures up quite a number of problems. So that's one huge variable, and if you were very unlucky, that could happen. So you're kind of on a non-starter there, unless you can somehow survive or be picked up or whatever. But in the desert, you're on solid ground, obviously, and that's probably where I'm probably most at home. And despite the obvious issues with hydration and finding food and shelter and all that sort of thing, generally speaking, I'd like to think I would cope a bit better, and not being used to high temperature, the higher temperatures I have experienced in the summers here in the UK, I have actually adapted quite considerably well in the space of a couple of weeks. Your body, as long as you're putting in enough water and keeping yourself hydrated, you can adapt, and I think that, or I hope that would occur should I have to walk across a desert. So I think a desert for me it would be. Yeah, so number 8. In 5 years from now, will you remember what you did yesterday? No definitive answer to this, but I think possibly I might Didn't do anything hugely amazing yesterday, but it might stick out in my memory as I had. I'm recording this. This is a Sunday afternoon, and yesterday, Saturday evening, I went with my wife out for a lovely meal at a steakhouse quite locally, which we tried for the first time, which was delightful. So that's one thing to remember. But in the week leading up to yesterday, a number of things occurred. I had a week off work, and during that week we got a new car and got quite a few significant jobs done at home. So it is slightly abnormal, and so therefore I think there's a fair chance I might remember in 5 years' time these things. And also, or another thing I might also add is that in the week leading up to yesterday, on Monday, it was my wife's birthday. So we had a lovely day out in the cathedral city of Ely, which was a first for us. So compared to other weeks leading up to yesterday, quite a few memorable things occurred. So I think there's a fair possibility I might remember in 5 years' time. So, number 9. If you had the chance, would you go to the moon? I wouldn't. It's not something that appeals to me for a number of reasons. I don't like the idea of being confined to small spaces, and then once you've reached your destination you're still confined within a suit, so you can't actually really properly experience somewhere because you're confined within, you have a barrier between yourself and your surroundings. One hell of a journey, obviously. Could be quite exciting, but it's also very dangerous. And from what I've seen and the evidence that I've seen of the moon and what it looks like and how it is, it doesn't really appeal. So no, I'm afraid not. So number 10. Has your greatest fear ever come true? And I can answer fairly quickly on this one. I'm very lucky to say that no, it hasn't. And I think probably my greatest fear is being suffocated somehow, but especially by being buried alive in some awful situation. Now I might add that the thought of being caught in a terrible fire, that is almost, I've had nightmares about that when I was a youngster. So that came a close second, but I think being buried whilst you're still alive somehow is, to me, that is just the most awful thing. So I hope this never happens, but it is my worst fear. So we've flashed through as quickly as I can in my rambling way, and just as a bonus, Jay asked us he's asked us what state do we live in, and so I'm in the United Kingdom, and my county or state, as you could say, is Northamptonshire, which is I guess fairly central in the UK. So there we are. I hope that has been not too drawn out and laborious for you. And as I say, I could have rambled on for a lot longer. and I might add that they're very thought-provoking questions as usual, and thank you for compiling these for us once again, Jay. And it's been very interesting to think of these things somewhat unusually, but yeah, it's quite good fun to do, and I hope it's been at least a little bit interesting for you. So with that, I shall say, if I can get my words out, keep the pipes puffing, keep the cameras rolling, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheerio for now.